All right, we're using our skills with systems of linear equations to solve word problems. Um, I'm doing these a little out of order, so I don't remember if we've already seen this yet. I don't think we have. So what we're going to be able to do now, these are the same type of word problems we saw earlier in chapter 3. But what we're going to be able to do now is instead of having to put one I don't know in terms of the other, we're just going to use x and y. We're just going to have two, and then we can create two separate equations. And then using the two separate equations, we can just use our skills for either substitution or elimination, and we can solve it this way. I think setting up the equations becomes much easier. Now we're going to do a type of problem that we've seen already before. So let me see if, so catch up to me here that we've got these tickets that are being sold. Some are adult tickets and some are children tickets. Hold on. Yeah, I don't like their table. I'm going to just do it right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is this. This is the number of adult tickets. We're just going to make our dictionary like we always did. And then y is going to be the number of child tickets. Okay, so I'll set it up here. They're going to work it for us in just a minute. But so there's always going to be an easy one, an easy equation to set up when we do this with the ability to have two different equations. What I mean is this. If I just add up the number of adult tickets and the number of child tickets, don't they just equal the total number of tickets sold? So I have one super easy equation. Now, the second one is the same idea we saw earlier. We've got, okay, $12 per adult ticket. Well, wouldn't that be 12 times x? But this time what's so nice is it's just 7 times child tickets. So that's pretty easy. Adult tickets, child tickets, that's the total amount. Now, this is money made on adults, money made on kids. So what's on the right needs to be the total money that they made. And it is. That's the total money they made. Okay, so I now have two equations, and I could solve these with substitution or elimination. I'll let them take care of that for us. So they're doing the tables here. I don't think, I only save that for distance equals rate times time. I don't do that. Now they're using an A and C instead of x and y. I try to always stick with x and y. But now they're running through a -7, so they could create opposites here on that second I don't know. And they're just going to do elimination. Now they come up with 521, plug that in. Then the child tickets must be 842. Okay, now let's do one here on our own. So I'm going to do x is the number of adult tickets. And y is going to be the number of child tickets. All right. So if you add these together, you should get the total number of tickets sold. Well, we do. Now, we're going to do, it's $9 per adult ticket, $6 per child ticket, and they made a total of 3,936. Okay, so we're ready to go. Now we could use the skills in our last video. I'm going to solve this one. I don't know if I'm going to do them all because it's the same stuff we just made all those videos on. But so I'm going to run -6 through here. Now I'm going to just write it below here now. -6x minus 6y. Let's see what that is. Okay, that gets me 3318. Okay, now we turn it into a, now it's negative there, sorry, that's written down there. We're going to giant addition problem here. That would give me 3x equals 3936 minus, okay, I get 618. Now we can solve for x by dividing both sides by 3. And I get x equals 206. Okay, so that is the number of, what did I do? That was x, so that's the number of adult tickets. Now I can go into any equation I want, and I'm going to go back to this original one before I ran a -6 through there. I've got 206 plus y equals 553. So I get y is 553 minus 206. I get y is 347. Okay, so that's adults and that's kids. All right, we've got a various number here. Let me set them up on this screen. We've done all of these before, this type, but now we're just going to do two sets of equations. Okay, so it isn't as simple to just add up x plus y this time because it's the money that he has in his pocket. So we have done this, but so I need to, if I want the total amount of money, it's got to be taking into account the value of each coin. Now, our second equation, the number of dimes is. So dimes is 9 less than twice the number of nickels. Now, it reads like this, twice the number of nickels. But remember, less than, we flip it around, and we get this. Okay. Now, we have our two equations. It's set up perfectly for substitution. Now, I'm going to let them do that. Setting d equal to 2n minus r. Crunch this, we get in as 36. Now, you can put it back into any equation. 36 in there solves for 63 dimes. So he has 36 nickels and 63 dimes. Okay, give me just a second here. I want to see if working these is going to make an enormously long video. I'm undecided here because we have the videos on solving them. I think you probably have that down. But for now, let's just keep rolling here. So this is going to be the number of quarters, and this is going to be the number of dimes. Okay, so we'd like to just add them up, which we can almost do, but we have to take into account this is money. This is just a number of coins until I add the value in front of them. So I've got 20 here. Let me write that again. 0.25x plus 0.10y equals 8.55. Okay, so there's one equation. Now, the other one is being built from this one. The number of quarters is, the number of quarters is 3 more than twice the number of dimes. Okay. For the sake of time here, I think I'm just going to set these up. This is what my system of equations is. I would use substitution because I know what x is. I'm going to drop that in for x. Okay, let's just look at each of the different types that we could find here. Now, let's see. We're doing mix. Now, we've actually done this as well. So I'm going to have x as the pounds of nuts, and y is going to be the pounds of chocolate chips. All right, now he's making 20 pounds, so we can just add these. X plus y is going to get 20 pounds. Now, we need a second one, however, that involves the cost. So it's $9 per pound for the nuts. It's $2 per pound for the chips. And this is what we have to be careful. It looks like there's only one number left, 7.6, but we saw this in chapter 3. This is money on the left. It has to be total money on the right, and that is not it. That is just the rate. So I'm going to multiply this by 20. And now, if it's $7.60 per pound, this is now the total amount of cost of the mix. So I have total cost on the left, total cost on the right. This is now a match. So they're doing the table approach. I don't like that for these. I mentioned that. So these are the same equations that we had. They've just multiplied. So here we go. 760 times 20 is 152. They just multiplied that out. You don't want to leave it like this the rest of the way. Just find what that number is. Now, I would do this by elimination. Probably run a -2 through there. Yeah, that's what they did. Solve this. We get down n is 16, c is 4. Okay, again, I'm just going to set this one up because we've got the videos on these skills, and I think they're pretty easy for most people once they've practiced a little bit. So we've got the pounds of peanuts, and we've got the pounds of cashews. All right, he wants to make a 5-pound mix, so we got an easy one. If we just add them up, it's got to be 5. And now we've got their individual prices. It's $4 for the peanuts, $9 for the cashews. Now we can't just say $6 again. This is total cost on the left. It must be total cost on the right. So these kind, you have to multiply it by the total mix. So it's 6 per pound. We got 5 pounds. So I would need to multiply that. Okay, now you wouldn't work it like this. I would change this into x plus y equals 5, 4x plus 9y equals 30. Now you could run a -4 through here. You could do substitution, whatever you think's best. Okay, same thing here. So I've got the beans, and I've got the ground beef. So this is pounds of each. So that's going to be my x. This is going to be my y. So he's going to put those together to make 20 pounds. So beans are 1 per pound. It's $5 per pound for the ground beef. His budget says $3, but that's not a total cost. This on the left is total. This is only the rate. So he can do $3 per the 20 pounds to get us a total. Now this would be 60, and so then again I think I would run a -1 through the top to solve that. Okay. I don't know if I've shown you the visual here on this one. I don't think that I have. So the way I show this to people, if you're in a class, a live class. So suppose I had this set up. So here's what we've got. At the bottom here is acid. Like I've let them settle and separate. So some percentage of this first beaker, this first glass, is sulfuric acid. It's 40% of this. And in the second one, oh no, let's see. No, they want to make 40. I'm sorry. So they've got one that has 25% acid and another one that's 50. Actually, that's pretty good. Looks pretty close to my pictures. Okay. And then when you combine them, you want a new one that makes 40. So do you see, like, if it's settled, a percentage of this is acid and a percentage of the second one is acid. You pour them together and you're going to get a new percentage in the end. Now let's make some equations here. Here's what we're saying. I'm going to make the x the 25% solution and y is going to be the 50%. Now let's see. So we're going to mix them together in order to make a 200 milliliter solution. So I just added them. She wants to make a 200 milliliter solution. Okay, let's pour the two things together. Now, let's make an equation that talks about the amount of acid. So I have 25% acid in the first one. So this is now the amount of acid. I've got 50% acid in the second one. Now, this is the total amount of acid in the two beakers, and we're going to put it together into the third to make 40%. But that's only the percentage. We need to multiply that by the 200 to get the acid in the third beaker. So I've got acid in the first beaker, acid in the second. Now this is the total acid when I combine them. It makes 0.40 times 200. So now they didn't show it, did they? Here we go. So they're going to crunch that. So these are our same equations. I'm going to multiply 0.4 times 200. It gets me this one. Now they went with elimination, running a -0.5 through there, or you could clear out all the fractions if you want to. There's no problem with just running 100 through this equation to get rid of the decimals. It'll still work, and then you could just do it again, like pick it up from that point and use 25x plus 50y equals whatever 40 times 20 is. Or it'd be this one, it'd be 8,000. So I could do that. Or you can work with the decimals, whatever you want. And then we just get our same answers, doing the same thing, just using elimination. Okay, let me help you set this up here. So we're just going to set it up again. I've got X is going to be the 25% acid, and this is going to be the 50%. So first of all, you can just pour them together and you're going to have 150 milliliters. But now, let's talk about how much acid is in each beaker. Now remember, you got to make them decimals as the percent. You got to change them to decimals. Now, this is the acid in the first one, the acid in the second one. You pour them together. You've got to make it the acid in that new third beaker. It's 30% of the 150. Now again, you could crunch this, you could run 100 through all the different groups if you wanted, or you can just work with the decimals, but that's your setup. Okay, I've got another one here. I'm going to just help you set it up. So if you want to try setting them up on your own, pause the video. So we've got 40% and 10%. I think I did this out of order a little bit. Yeah, let me change it. I don't think it matters, but... Okay, so I'm going to pour the X and the Y together to make 250. Now, if we talk about the percentage of acid in each of them, we have this. And we're going to pour them together, and we need a new one that has 25% acid, but that's just the percentage. I've got to multiply it by the 250. Okay? Now, you don't want to, again, you don't want to just work with it. Find this number now. Do 0.25 times 250 to get this to be a number, and then you keep proceeding. Sometimes I'll have students who think you just leave it that way and work the whole thing. Don't do that. Just find that number now, and you can do, I would probably still do elimination, but you could do substitution too. Okay, so I hope the setup makes sense. We've seen this. We've seen, I don't know if we saw mixtures, but we've seen the other ones earlier in chapter 3. And now what's nicer about it is we don't have to try to put one I don't know in terms of the other. I think it's much easier to just do X and Y. There's usually a simple one where you can just add them up. And then a second one where you have a little bit more work to do. But just remember, the left side and the right side need to be saying the same thing. Total acid, total money, whatever.